Mr. Paterson, good morning to you. Vince Cable says that he now thinks Brexit may now not happen. What do you say to that?
Wow, what's new? Vince Cable always wanted to stay in the European Union. He's chucking buckets of water around. The fact is we had a huge vote this time last year. 70.4 million voters voted to leave. We had an enormous vote in the House of Commons, 494 votes to trigger Article 50. We had an election campaign in which the two main parties, Conservative and Labour, took 85% of the votes, and they made it very clear they backed the Lancaster House speech and leaving the customs union and leaving the single market and leaving the ECJ, and Vince Cable's party went down in votes, and as did the other little parties that want to stay in the European Union. So I'm afraid Vince is behind history. We are going to leave. We are on target. Michael Gove triggered leaving the 1964 London Convention so we can take back control of our seas and bring back a sane fishing policy, allowing prosperity to our fishing communities and, much more important, also getting environmental gains in our marine environment. So,
all right. You know, clearly you think we're still heading for the exit, but Mrs May called the election because she wanted a mandate for her version of Brexit. She didn't get it. Surely you can't just continue with business as usual?
Well, we've been over and over the election. We did not get the number of seats we wanted, but on votes we got 13.7 million. That was more, many more actually, than the Great Blair landslide.
You didn't. You had an overall majority and you lost it. That's the fact.
I said that, Andrew. We know that.
So you didn't get the mandate.
I'm not denying that. We did not get the...
You didn't get the mandate.
Oh, hang on, we got the votes. We got all the votes, and so did the Labour Party.
You know, Owen Paterson, we're in a parliamentary system where what matters is the number of seats you get in the Commons. You know enough about the British Constitution to know that's what determines the mandate, not the number of votes. We're not a presidential system.
I'm fully aware of that, Andrew, but you cannot deny that 85% of the electorate voted for parties that wanted to leave. And if you take votes in the Commons last week on the Queen's speech, not a single Conservative Member of Parliament abstained or voted against, and the Labour Party unwisely, Chukramuna, triggered an amendment wanting us to stay in the customs union, the single market, and got hammered. We got 322 votes against 101. So
all right.
I'm absolutely clear that we have to deliver this. I mean, much the most important point in all this is if we do not deliver a proper Brexit, which means leaving the single market, leaving the customs union and leaving the jurisdiction of the ECJ and taking back control, as we made very clear in the referendum, there will be absolutely appalling damage to the integrity of the whole establishment. Not just political, the media and the judicial establishment.
Well, some would say that that damage has already been done in other areas, but let's look at a little bit of the detail here. Now, under Article 50, Britain leaves the EU in about 20 months now. It's only 20 months, which means the deal will have to be done in 15 or 16 months to allow for people to approve it in the various parliaments and so on. Progress has been glacial. We've only really just begun. Why should there not be a transitional deal that keeps some of the current arrangements in place to mitigate this falling off a cliff?
Well, as Liam said in the Commons,
Liam who?
This should be one of the Liam Fox, this should be one of the easiest ever deals to conclude, because already we have zero tariffs, already we have complete conformity on standards, and already those who are negotiating with us have an enormous surplus with us, which they would want to keep going. The Germans sold an enormous number of cars last year. It's increasing each year. So that is the basis on which we're going. If you look at NAFTA, which was a more complex deal between independent states.
We haven't even started talking about free trade yet. That's not even on the agenda yet.
Hang on, let me finish the question. If you look at NAFTA, which was a more complex deal between independent sovereign states, that took 14 months. And we are starting on a basis of mutual recognition of all our standards and zero tariffs. So, yes, there will be an implementation period, but it is very, very important politically that this is concluded fast. And there's a huge economic imperative as well, because it's uncertainty about this that will damage future investment and jobs. And the quicker we get on with it, and we know where we're going, and we can reach out to the world, we can take advantage of the fact stated on the European Commission website that 95% of the world's growth is going to come from outside the European Union, which is what we're seeing. We've seen our sales into the European Union go from 61% down to 43% today, and it's tumbling to 35%. We cannot take advantage of these wonderful opportunities in the wider world, which is growing much faster than the European Union.
Why not? Germany
unless we
does.
have the freedom to do so.
Why not? Germany does.
Because they can't conclude free trade deals.
Germany runs a balance of payments surplus, 9% of its GDP. It finds it perfectly possible to trade with the rest of the EU and with the rest of the world. It's got a bigger surplus than China. Why can't, if Germany can do both, why can't we?
They can't conclude deals. And we saw President Trump wants to do a deal with us.
They're the biggest exporters in the world,
sitting down
Mr.
with
Paterson.
a string of... And you saw Theresa May sitting down with the economies of the future. India, China, South Korea, these are all longing to do more business with us. And we can only do that once we are out of the customs union. And that is absolutely vital for the future of this country. That's where the future growth is.
The business in this country says we should stay in the single market and the customs union at least through a transition period. Does that count for nothing? Is the Tory party now so anti-business that it just ignores the wealth creators?
Well, I think what you're saying is that the CBI, which represents very large organisations, has made that statement. But talking to business widely and smaller private business, which of course dominates the economy, what is vital on this is to have a rapid implementation period. That is what's important. And there has to be clarity of where we're going. If we're in some permanent limbo of half in and half out, which will take also an enormous amount of negotiation and will also take ratification by the 27 countries and the European Parliament, as well as our own Parliament, that will drag things out. What we need to do is a clean, clear statement of reciprocal free trade, which should be really pretty easy to negotiate, because you already have that. We have zero tariffs, we have conformity of standards, we then have an implementation period. And that really needs to be done rapidly, latest by the next election.
OK, we shall see how simple it turns out to be.